Okay, what's going on? My name is Bim, and it's been 2 to 3 months since I posted my last video about controllers and stuff. Partially because it was a hassle setting up the lights and the camera and everything, and the camera I'm using is still the same, where I can't see myself in frame, and that's a bit of a hassle, plus full-time job and everything. But here I am now, and today I wanted to talk about the Gulikit KingKong Pro controller for the Nintendo Switch. I actually don't know how to pronounce that name. Gulikit. I've never heard it pronounced out loud. If someone knows, maybe you could just leave a comment. I didn't know they existed until DataBlitz posted an ad on their Facebook about a new Pro controller, third-party Pro controller for the Nintendo Switch with so many features. It has, at the very least, NFC, which most third-party controllers don't support, and motion controls. So those two features alone just kind of sold me. Plus, it's got a bunch more, which we'll go over in a few minutes. So it costs about 1,995 pesos, if I recall correctly, around 40 bucks. You could probably find it at DataBlitz if you're in the Philippines, iTech, probably, I'm not so sure, or online. I'm sure you can find it online. 40 bucks. Let's open it up. In the box is a very nice hard case. It actually protects it quite well. In the hard case, you've got your manual, which, to be honest, you're kind of gonna need, at least for the first few weeks of using this thing, because it's got so many functions. You're gonna want a reference for all that. Then you've got your standard USB-C cable. I don't know how long this is. I never opened it up. It looks quite short, actually, because I've got a bunch of USB-C cables. And the controller itself. Here it is. Ta-da! Let's talk build quality and form factor. So every time you touch a new controller, the first thing you're going to notice is the quality of the plastic. And the quality of the plastic on this thing is actually really good. It's almost rubbery, rubber-like in texture when you touch it. It's got a very nice feel to it. Very matte. If you've got oily hands, it will show. You will put fingerprints on it, but like if your hands are not as oily, then it wouldn't be a problem. Very premium buttons. Everything feels premium. The what do you call these things? The stick nubs, whatever they're called, is actually steel. Same ones as the Xbox One controllers, it says. So that's good. It's durable like that. I've actually dropped this a number of times. And the one time I dropped it, the R2, I'm just going to refer to it as the R2, but it's actually the LZ or ZL, got stuck. And I couldn't press it until I just kind of forced it. I jammed it back in, and it still works perfectly. So, try not to drop it, but it's pretty durable. It can endure a couple bumps here and there. In terms of just the comfort, the form factor of it, it's really comfortable to hold. If you've ever used an Xbox One controller, it's quite similar in shape, except that the handles, the paddles are actually really pronounced. So when you're playing a game, your idle fingers have somewhere really nice to rest. So that's really good. And plus the feel of the plastic and everything, it's a really, really, really nice controller to hold. It's very comfortable for long gaming sessions. In terms of connectivity, the versatility of the controller, of course, it works on the Nintendo Switch wired and wireless. It works on an Android device. I haven't really tested it on Android, so I don't play a lot of mobile games. And it works on PC for both X input and D input. X input is what most controllers usually use. It's what the Xbox 360 controller and Xbox One controllers use. It is recognized by Windows immediately. D input is what the DualShock 4 uses, if I'm not mistaken. So if you connect it to the PC with X input, it gets recognized as either an Xbox 360 if you connect it wired, or an Xbox One if you can connect it wirelessly. Actually, it works when you connect it wirelessly if it's detected as an Xbox One controller if you're using X input, because Connecting it wirelessly on a PC is sometimes a little wonky. So it will connect via Bluetooth, but the controls are weird. Like pressing a single button will not give you any input, but if you press two at the same time, then it fires. Doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it's a bitch to fix. You usually have to reset all the settings by pressing the gear button and the minus button here. More on that later. But yeah, wireless for PC, wired and wireless for PC, wired and wireless for Nintendo Switch and Android. Connecting it to your PC is really easy wirelessly. So here, this button lets you set, and I think this is Android, X input, D input, Nintendo Switch. You just have to pick, and then long press on this button right here, so it starts searching. Same button when you want to connect it to your Nintendo Switch. All you have to do is to go into the settings where you could change grip order, I think, or change controller order. You press this, it should connect. If it doesn't connect that way, just plug it in once with a USB-C and it should be fine from there. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention in terms of just the comfort and form factor, if you notice there's a line in between the faceplate and the backplate, and that line is actually a gap between the two shells. And it's not a deal breaker, it won't affect your gameplay in any way, but your pinky will really feel like your idle fingers are really gonna feel it. It gets annoying sometimes, but it's not too bad. You're just gonna notice that it's there. Let's talk about the button feel. So all of the buttons actually feel really premium. The face buttons feel great to touch. I had an issue where the A, I guess in this case, this button right here, the circle button, kind of caught on the plastic in the first few days of use, but I guess it kind of shaved the plastic down because it doesn't happen anymore. It feels great to push now. The trigger button, the bumper buttons have a really distinct and meaty click to them, which I love. The triggers have a really good travel to them. They're not too long, not too far, but it's pretty good. The option buttons feel a little loose. They feel a little easy to press, so you might press them accidentally, but they're kind of out of the way when you start playing, so it's not too big of a deal. But these are the worst feeling buttons on the controller, which is not to say that they're bad. All right, I'm back. That thing falls all the time, but that freaked me out for a bit. So what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, D-pad accuracy. D-pad accuracy is really good, and you know how much of a D-pad criticizer I am. This is actually really accurate. For a third-party controller, it's one of the more accurate third-party controllers I've used in terms of the D-pad. So I play a lot of fighting games. You can actually play Tekken with this. Pressing forward or back will not give you a straight up or down input, which is good. Unfortunately, the diagonals, the up forwards, the down backs, that's just Bugsy. The diagonals, the up forward, the down backs, you can't just kind of nudge it like this. You really have to work for them. You have to get your finger in between those two directions to get that to fire, which takes some getting used to when you're playing a fighting game, but it's not terrible to use. So in terms of accuracy, right stick accuracy when you're playing a shooter, well, for one, if you're playing something like Paladins or I think Warframe on the Nintendo Switch, the gyro enabled aim assist will help out a lot. And you could actually adjust the sensitivity of that by pressing the gear button and pressing L and L2 to bring it up or down. The right stick accuracy is actually also by default really good. I played Ghost Recon Wildlands, some Anthem, yes, I still play Anthem, and some Assassin's Creed Odyssey for aiming the bow and arrow. It's really good, pretty accurate, didn't have any issues getting headshots and stuff. But if you still feel like it's too like the acceleration is too fast, you can adjust it on the fly by pressing the gear button and pressing down on whichever stick you want to adjust. So there are 3 settings. Pressing it once makes it less sensitive. Pressing it another time makes it even less sensitive. And then pressing it one more time, we're going to bring it back to the default. So you just have to play around with it. I actually found it really useful when sniping people. You can change sensitivity on the fly, which is amazing for a controller of this price. Other functions would be pressing the gear button, and plus will switch the functions of BA and YX. Pressing the gear button and up and down on the D-pad will increase or decrease the vibration. Gear button and any of the faceplate buttons, the face buttons and R1, R2 will enable the turbo. I think there are 3 settings for turbo. You're gonna have to play around with this. I didn't really test it out, but it does exist. Gear button, and I think pretty much talked about all of them. Left and right is the aim assist, right? Yeah, I think that's all of them. And then you've also got a learning button. Oh, if you want to reset all the settings, you just press the gear and minus. Then it resets everything. So in case you mess up your settings, you can just bring it back to default. Pressing the gear button, pressing the learning button down here and holding it down will enable you to enter any combination with some timing considerations. So I tried it on Tekken, enabled learning, input a 10 string on King, pressed it again. So I got into a practice round and pressed the learning button once, and it just executed the 10 string. It's kind of cheap because let's say you're playing King and you want to do an RDC. So you press the learning button, you input the RDC input properly, press it to make it learn the input. So all you have to do is connect the first 2 grabs and you press the learning button, and it's a perfect, no fail, 100% of the time RDC, which is kind of cheap, but this controller enables you to do it. So there is that. Another thing I like about this is the battery life. So I played about 8 hours, well, not straight, but like in chunks, and the controller only died at the very tail end of it. So you could probably get 6 to 8 hours of continuous use out of this thing. Supposedly, as advertised, if it's in standby, it uses practically no battery life, which is great. The one flaw I think it has, which is shared by most third-party Nintendo Switch controllers, is that it does not wake up your Nintendo Switch from sleep mode. So if you want to pair it, if you want to use it, you're going to have to wake up your Nintendo Switch with like a Joy-Con or something and then enable pairing. So there is that. Plus, there is no 3.5mm headphone jack, which is par for the course for all currently, as of recording, wireless Nintendo Switch third-party controllers. Only one exists and it's wired. So there's that. But if it could wake up your Nintendo Switch and did have a 3.5mm jack, it would be literally the best controller for the Nintendo Switch. But even then, without those 2 features, it is still probably, in my opinion, the best third-party Nintendo Switch controller you could get. It doesn't have those back paddles like the GameSir T4 does, or I think the Power A the controller does, but with all the functions that it has with NFC and motion controls, it's really, really good. The Gulikit KingKong Pro Nintendo Switch controller. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys found it informative at the very least. So as you know, I'm trying to get back my monetization for the channel. So it would help me out a lot if you could just leave a like or a comment in the comments below and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys. I'll see you guys in the next one.